So if you're thinking about sport decals and variants these days, you're thinking about those cheap knockoff decals and stickers that you might be getting online, but not for Ford. Ford actually treats the sport moniker in high regard. If you remember the Ford Everest Sport and the Ford Ranger Sport, they're one of my most favorite variants in their particular model lineups, and I think what we have right here might be of no exception. How's it going, guys? Roy Robles here from Zigwheels.Ph, and today we'll be doing a double take review on this one right here. It's the Ford Territory Sport. And so one of the hallmark features of the sport variants here in the Philippines is that they're all murdered out. They're all blacked out. You won't see any chrome trims around it, and the Ford Territory is of no exception. So you got the Ford Territory Titanium X featuring chrome trims around the grille. This time here though, you got it all with piano black, as ditto with the lower part of the grille right here, the front end. The one thing that's remotely close to chrome right here is this brushed aluminum strip that connects these two DRLs. That looks really wonderful. You got a camera as well right here, right below the Ford badge. The reason why it has a camera is because it has the same features as the Ford Territory Titanium X that we've previously reviewed. Again, the only difference is that you got all piano black right here and around the car, as I'll show you later on. Got these sharp boxy lines all around the car. Unlike the sexy and sleek look and sporty of the previous Territory, this time though it looks a lot like a truck and an SUV from Ford. Now, heading over to the side profile of the Ford Territory Titanium Sport, you still get those 19-inch alloy wheels with chunky 235/50 R19 tires right there, and they fill the wheel well quite nicely, especially with these blacked out wheels that we got right here. You got the same black plastic cladding all around, but this time this trim right here now in piano black, which is quite fetching. You got a black roof rail on top as well, and you no longer get those chrome trims around the window. Instead you get it in black. Still get the same ground clearance here, and you also get front and rear disc brakes, which is always a plus. I like how the two-tone look features here in the Ford Territory Titanium Sport without having to look like a two-tone right here, because you've got a panoramic sunroof on top. You got the blacked out roof as well, which is quite nice. Again, looks really great in this new gray color scheme. All right, so don't get me wrong, it's not all a love fest for me with the Ford Territory Sport that we got right here. For example, yeah, I like how everything is integrated with piano black right here. You got the Territory badge right there. You got these same blacked out tail lamps here that are LED that kind of really mimics the front end with their hook-like design right there, and does a quick callback to the Ford Mustang. But the Ford Territory Sport lacks the sport badge. I mean, come on, Ford, this is your opportunity to actually show it off. The sport badge, especially with the Ford Ranger and Ford Everest, they got the sport badge right here proudly showing itself, but here it seems to be missing. I mean, what's up with that? Now, one of my things that I really love with the Ford Territory in general, you got this nice power tailgate here, and you got all this space to put all your stuff in it. I mean, even with the first generation Ford Territory, it still was able to give you a lot of space right here in the second row and right here in the back because of its extended wheelbase. You got a nice hard touch plastic floor right here that hides the spare tire underneath. No fix-a-flat here, so in case you get into an emergency, definitely hope not, you can actually just replace the tire. It's not going to be found underneath like a lot of SUVs out there. It's right here because that's one of the advantages of having a crossover. You got a nice tonneau cover here that comes as standard, and if you need even more space, you can fold those rear seats flat. The Ford in a 60/40 split configuration, which is nice. Oh, before we check out the interior, one of the new features of the Ford Territory Sport is that it now has a remote start system to go along with all the features that it has. But one of my favorite features about the Ford Territory that I didn't seem to have tackled in my previous reviews and the other variants is that if you click on and hold on to the unlock button, it actually pulls down the windows and opens up the panoramic sunroof so that it can, you know, just put out all the hot air in the inside and ventilate the interior. That's been one of the features of a lot of Fords for the past few years that I've known of, even with the Ford Focus that I've seen, and it's a pretty nice and nifty feature. All right, so this time inside the Ford Territory Sport, I see a lot of changes. Not design-wise, you still have the same nicely sculpted dashboard, which now is less busy than the previous generation, and now again more in line with Ford's current lineup of vehicles. Now inside here you got this huge touchscreen infotainment system with both wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Again, a digital gauge cluster right there, a nice steering wheel with a D shape here, which makes it easier to hold. Although the steering wheel seems to be a little bit thin, but it is very comfortable. You can adjust it for both reach and rake, like so. The seats are nicely padded. They're not super padded to the point where it's gonna lull you to sleep. And the bolsters, they're supportive, but they're not gonna dig right into your ribs right here or in your glutes. No, right here to your side, your love handles. They're not gonna hug you to the point where it's not gonna let you go. It's very supportive, at the same time very forgiving as well. What's new with the Ford Territory Sport though are these carbon fiber trims all around. You got it right here on the middle of the dashboard, right here on the door cards, right here on the center console. No piano black. Well, of course there's piano black. There's a piano black bezel, small piano black bezel right here on the shifter dial and the volume control knobs right here. So again, you're not going to be totally free of piano black, because yeah, this does piano black right, because it's not going to be everywhere, not in the touch points where I can see here. You got these nice gray black seats here, which I absolutely love. No more of the blue seats that we see on the Ford Territory titanium variants, and you got orange stitching right here, reminiscent of those Ford Wildtrak models that I really love here. You got this black headliner on top. The driver seats are power operated. You can go forward and back, up and down, and you can lean back and forward, as well as adjust your thigh support right here, and even have lumbar support. The passenger side unfortunately does not have power seats, but you know what, personally I think I'm kind of over power seats right now. As long as I can adjust my seating to my optimum riding or driving position, that should be just fine for me. But this one is just fine. You got wireless charging right here, and you got this dial right here that acts as your shift dial. You can switch between P, R, N, D, and L. Unfortunately, you don't get any manual modes right here to control the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It does have a USB port right here at the back of the rear view mirror. So if you want to add a dash cam, all you gotta do is just add the dash cam right there, and no need to snake a USB cable all around here. That's gonna, ideally that's not gonna be that's gonna be something that you want to do. So all you gotta do is just plug in the USB right here, and you've got a nice integrated, well, semi-integrated dash cam, which I appreciate. Now heading over to the touchscreen here, this is one nice system. This is definitely a further improvement over the previous generation. There's nothing new here. You still have the same information, the settings that you need. You got a 360-degree camera system right here. You got automatic parking. We've already discussed this in a previous review. All right, so right here in the second row seats, one thing that absolutely never fails to surprise me about the Ford Territory, despite the fact that I've driven and I've ridden in it for lots of times now, is the huge space that we've got here. So you got a nice flat floor. Yeah, a lot of crossovers in the market now have flat floors, but the amount of space that it affords rear passengers is just phenomenal. You got huge headroom here, despite the fact that you've got a panoramic sunroof working on top. You still have lots of room for your head. Now, if you want to relax here, this is no problems. I can actually fit myself quite nicely here. Elbow room is definitely a surplus here. You got a surplus of elbow room, and you can fold this middle port down so that you can add a center armrest, and you could have got 2 cup holders right here. You got a solitary USB port here, so you're gonna have to fight over whoever is sitting in the back if you have another passenger here for dominion over that solitary USB port. But you do get rear AC vents, which is nice. The rear lights are found right here, right behind the handrails. which I do wish it was found here instead to make it a little bit brighter. But overall, it's very comfortable, despite the fact that the seats are just quite flat, but they're wide. They're really wide, so if you want to sit yourself down, this is very comfortable right here. I want to put the center armrest down. Oh yeah, that's good. The Ford Territory Sport was a surprise in itself because I wasn't really expecting a release out of it, because you already got the Ford Territory Titanium X, which acted as the top of the line variant before this came out. Under the hood, it's the same one. You got a 1.5 liter turbocharged dual overhead cam engine that makes 158 horsepower and around 260 newton meters of torque, which is adequate, especially when you're bringing a vehicle of this size and weight, and is on par with a lot of the crossovers in the market today that come with a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. Now, it is mated to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Now, one thing about dual clutch transmissions is that naturally speaking, I mean, the way that they're designed is that you've got two clutches working in unison. It's basically, like I said, it's a dual clutch. So basically, you've got the same mechanicals as a manual transmission, where you've got clutch discs working. Oh, I got messages sent to me. So you got clutch discs working in unison with each other. So what happens is that you've got one clutch disc that works with the odd numbered clutches. You got 1, 3, 5, and 7. Hey, that's quick math. And then another clutch disc working with 2, 4, and 6. So at the same time, they are engaged at the same time. And with the automatic controller system right there, they're trying to determine the best gear that you need to be in at any particular moment. In comparison to regular automatics and CVTs, where you got a planetary system working at all times and uses a computer and fuzzy logic to determine the right transmission, the right gear that you need to be in. This one actually helps you out with being more fuel efficient, because it actually works with actual gears and all that. With a CVT, of course, CVT should be more fuel efficient, but it saps a lot of the power coming out off the line, especially with these types of engines. Now, the drawback with a dual clutch transmission, though, is that especially in heavy traffic, it gets kind of jerky, especially when you're not used to driving a dual clutch transmission. So if you mash the throttle pedal, there's going to be some sort of lag, because the system's going to start to get confused, saying that, hey driver, I'm not a sports car. But if you tap on the accelerator pedal, one thing that I figured out with this, if you tap on it, feather it, treat it like a CVT. There you go. Treat it like a CVT. You will get where you need to be. The power will be there, like so. Oh, there it is. Just make sure that you don't mash it. Don't mash the throttle pedal in the Ford Territory, because you're just going to be lining yourself up with disappointment. And so we're riding through our pockmarked roads like that one. I just rode over some rumble strips right there. It took it like a champ, and like any other crossover I've driven lately, it actually feels like an SUV. And that's the thing about Ford, though. I've driven the Ford Everest, and I told the guys at Ford that it actually feels like a crossover in a way that it doesn't feel truck-like at all. This one right here, this crossover actually feels like the Ford Everest in a way that it rides quite solid without having all these rattles, without being too clattery inside. It feels nice. This definitely feels solid, and it actually insulates yourself from the outside world pretty well as well. I mean, you have motorcycles all around. You got people, basic city noise outside like that. Those horns out there, but the noise, the volume, the noise of the outside world is kept at a minimum, and I really appreciate that with the Ford Territory right here. Fuel economy of the Ford Territory Sport is decent. I mean, it's certainly better than the previous generation Ford Territory, and still in line with the other variants on of the Ford Territory. So with the Sport, in heavy city traffic. This is heavy city traffic. I get around 7 to 8 kilometers per liter, and that's in really heavy traffic. I can't imagine stating the obvious right there, because right now it's just going crazy. There's a lot of cars on the road, a lot of motorcycles on the road, and it's not getting any better. So you would like to get a comfortable ride that's as fuel efficient as possible, but when you stretch the Ford Territory Sport's legs out on the highway, it starts getting better. You get around 15 to 16 kilometers per liter if you drive like a sane person on the highway. Safety features abound inside the Ford Territory Sport. You've got a 360-degree camera system, which again I really appreciate. You've got adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency braking. You got a blind spot warning or blind spot warning system on each side of the side mirrors right there. You'll see a flashing light, so that's going to help you out with those ninja camotes that you don't see on the road right there. And you got rear cross traffic alert. That's definitely going to be helpful. You also got lane keep assist and lane departure warning, which is going to help you out whenever you're using it in conjunction with adaptive cruise control, which I really like. Of course, you got airbags, ABS, electronic brake force distribution, as well as a slew of other basic system like this nice seat belt here. You got seat belts all around. Those things are basic, so that's why I'm trying to keep myself away from stating the obvious, because I believe that all cars should start having those basic safety systems. Pricing for the Ford Territory Titanium Sport starts at 1,625,000 pesos, which is around 26,000 pesos more than the top of the line Ford Territory Titanium X. Now, if you think about it, a lot of people are actually kind of iffy with the price of the Ford Territory Titanium X to begin with, and are starting to compare it with the Ford Everest, the entry-level Ford Everest. But what you are missing out, though, with the Ford Everest, the entry-level Ford Everest, is the advanced safety features, the comfort amenities that you're getting in here. So I believe that that's an unfair comparison for the Ford Territory, especially the Ford Territory Sport. Now, thinking about the price of the Ford Territory Sport here, it's just even more expensive than the Ford Territory Titanium X. What do you get? You get better seats. I mean, yes, I'm saying that you get better seats instead of the blue ones, which I really don't prefer. It's like pretty much changing the interior and the exterior bits if you had the Titanium X. It's going to be more expensive if you do it yourself going outside. You got the remote start system, which is very helpful, especially in these hot summer days. You want to make sure that you start your car right away before you even get to it. Make sure that the air conditioning system uses itself quite well inside here. Yeah, I like that. Now, another feature that I love about the Ford Territory Titanium Sport about the Ford Territory Sport is that, yeah, the blackout trims. Those blacked out trims, they definitely mean a lot. The impact that it has on the exterior features is quite well. I mean, I've been talking a lot about the Ford Sport lineup, the Ford Everest Sport and the Ford Ranger Sport. The Ford Territory Sport in itself isn't the mid-grade variant. It's now the top of the line variant, unlike on the other models. I like how it creates a sort of contrast on the exterior that it sets itself apart from not just the Ford Territory Titanium X variant, but the rest of the other crossover SUVs in the market. I mean, a lot of crossover SUVs want to look like they're sporty, want to look like they're macho. The proportions and the design of the Ford Territory in itself is already that. It's just that some people don't like chrome. Some people don't like brushed aluminum looks around a car. I myself am quite iffy with chrome looks. And if I had the choice, I would go ahead and black out everything on the exterior like what Ford did in this particular variant. Alright, so this has been my full review of the Ford Territory Sport. I want to know what you think. Do you think the extra is going to be paid on top of the Ford Territory Titanium X variant worth it? You know, you got the blacked out trims on the outside, you got the updated looking seats, which I really think is really nice, and especially when compared to the blacked out headliner and the remote start system. Well, personally, I think it really is worth it, especially when you're thinking about if you want to do it yourself. It's not going to be implemented the same way that it comes out of the factory. Again, I want to know your opinion. So flame me right there into the comment section down below, because I really want to know what you think, and I'll be commenting and replying to a lot of your comments. Just make sure that while you're there, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification icon so you wouldn't miss any of our videos. This has been Roy Robles from Zigwheels.Ph. I will see you guys next time.